So it's time to start on this new little project kit. I'm starting on the bass drum because why not? So the first step is just to take all the hardware off. Yep. And then also the drum key drill bit that I'm using was an old drum key that broke and fell apart, so now I can use it in the drill. And then of course I took off the lugs and then the rest of the hardware. And to get the air vent out, I used a punch and gently tapped it out. And there was also a little bit of ply delamination, so I just had to glue that back together. And I used tape to hold it down, and also I added some clamps just to be safe. So the one thing that I was most worried about happening has happened. So the distance from the bearing edge to the end of the lug is 4 3/8 inches. And what that means is the bare minimum shell depth that I can use is twice that, and that's with the lugs butted up right next to each other. I could offset them, but I don't want to do that. So twice of 4 3/8 is what, 8 3/4. But if we measure from this bearing edge to the edge of this hole, that is 8 9/16, so that is smaller than 8 3/4. So that means that the bearing edge is going to fall where these holes are, so I just need to plug them. So I actually got lucky. This is a cutoff from a 1/4 inch dowel that I used to make a pair of hot rods, and the hole I need to fill is 1/4 inch also, so I just added some glue and plugged the holes. And then I cut the shell down. The final depth is now 8 13/16. I decided to give me an extra 16th, you know, just in case. Gotta love cheap drums. So there's that one void in the plywood, as well as some more ply delamination, so I glued and clamped it back together. It's been a long time since I've touched this drum. It's been a couple months. But as you can see, I sanded off the finish because my plan was to stain it, but I actually changed my mind. You all have seen me paint and stain and wrap drums before, so I wanted to do something a little bit different. So one thing that's pretty popular is to use this contact paper. So I bought these two at Lowe's and Home Depot. I think I'm gonna choose this one just because it looks better. But if you just search contact paper online, you'll find a whole bunch of different patterns, and this stuff is pretty cheap. Each of these rolls was only $7. So if you're trying to give your drum set a new look and want to do it cheap, this is the way to go. But before I apply this, I need to do a few more things to the drum. To lay out the lug hole pattern on the other side of the drum, I just took my combination square and extended the center line of the existing lug holes. And then I transferred the whole pattern to the other side. And then some center punching. And a whole bunch of drilling. I'm using the absolute maximum capacity of this. Oh god. I'm using the absolute maximum capacity of this drill press. There's still some more drilling that I need to do, but since I'm in the garage, I'm going to go ahead and route the bearing edges. So I cut the same bearing edge that I cut on basically every other drum. So there's a slight roundover on the outside and a 45-degree chamfer on the inside. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, but I really do need a bigger router table. And now for those other holes that I was talking about, I need to lay out the pattern for the bass drum spurs. So to make this job easy, I'm using the backing plate that goes on the inside of the drum, and to get my measurements, I'm just using the cutoff of the shell because that's where the bass drum spurs were originally mounted.
And then just rinse and repeat on the other side.
And that's all the holes. So here's a better look at the contact paper, and honestly from a distance it looks like real wood. Now of course if you get up close and like touch it, you'll realize that it's not real wood. And knowing the people of YouTube, I'm gonna get so many comments saying, "Oh dude, why don't you use a real veneer? Oh, you're cheaping out, blah blah blah." But keep in mind, this is a cheap piece of crap drum, so this is what I'm doing. So if you couldn't tell, I trimmed the paper down just to make it a little bit more manageable. And you want to do it this way with a little bit of overhang, because if you trim it to the final dimension and you don't get it lined up perfectly, then it'll be pretty hard to fix that. But this way, with the overhang, we can just cut it to size, and I'll show you an easy way to do that. But first, we need to put this on.
To attach the paper to the shell, I started by taping one end of it to the shell, and then I'm running the wrap around the drum right now, making sure that it's straight and that there's an even overhang on each side. Once I knew that it was on straight, I started to peel back the backing paper and I cut off just a little bit to get it started. And to help avoid getting any air bubbles, I'm using an old gift card as a squeegee. And then you just gotta repeat that process. You gotta peel back the backing paper and then stick it on. So now we need to trim off the excess, and to do that I'm just taking a razor blade, running it along the bearing edge, making sure not to cut into the wood.
So you'll realize that these edges are kind of jagged, and also they come right up to the bearing edge, which we don't want, so that's where this tool comes in. So this is just a thin piece of wood. It's an 1/8 inch thick, and we got a razor blade taped to the end. So I have the drum on its side, and now I just need to run this tool along it to give me the right reveal. And now this piece will peel right off. And now, as you can see, there is a nice even reveal along both of the bearing edges. So now I just need to put the drum together. It's pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to show you. All I'm going to do is take this thing, poke through the holes, and install the hardware.
I started by cutting the paper into strips. They're about 1 inch wide because anything over 1 inch seemed to like wrinkle when I wrapped it around the hoop, and then I cut those strips in half. I then applied the strips to the top of the bass drum hoop, and I left a little bit overhanging along the back, so I folded that part down, and then I would wrap the rest of it around the bottom of the hoop, and then push the excess up, and then I would cut off the excess with a knife.
Well, that didn't take forever. So yeah, this thing sounds pretty damn good, and honestly, it turned out way better than I was expecting. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of questions about this bass drum head, so a long time ago, I bought this fabric for something else, and I bought way too much of it, so I had a bunch left over, and I decided it'd be kind of cool and, you know, funny to put it on a bass drum head, so that's that. And in the other video, I was talking about how this is like a pancake kick, but really now it's like a pizza because you got the sauce and the cheese on top, and then the shell is like the crust. And it's so soft you could probably sleep on it. But yeah, as always, let me know what you think about this drum in the comments, and if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, if you want to download the track that I was playing to, there's a link to that in the description. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching.